在云林的大草岭地区有非常丰富的地质景观，跟着我们的镜头一起来看。
又称史蛮坑溪的内湖溪水，千百年来接力冲刷，鬼斧神工地切割出草岭。
这边如果天气好的话，很适合小朋友跟全家来游玩。
只要天气好，来自各地前来赏景的游客非常多。
但是如果下雨天的话，地形容易湿滑，要非常注意的安全。
要到这里来旅游，得避开雨季，得小心常年青苔。
虎坑的万年峡谷，游客前来赏风景，惊吓发现2具浮尸，赶紧报警。警消人员获报，前往打捞上岸，发现2名死者，1男1女。
县府因此公告万年峡谷禁止水域游憩区。
万年峡谷是完全不适合近距离嬉戏的地点，
它也还是一个很危险的场域。
这里也是暗藏危险的，
千万不要进入河床戏水。
虽然不是来戏水，
疑似是不小心落水溺死，其中一个人不小心跌落了2层楼深的峡谷。
最主要是它这边青苔蛮多的，
不少游客为了拍照落水意外，到目前为止已经发生过5件。
现在万年峡谷步道完工，希望带动观光人潮。
Hello everybody, welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about Wanyan Shagu. We're going to talk about the accident that occurred there, what to do if you fall in, how those accidents can be prevented in the future, and also what to do if you intentionally go in, and how Wanyan Shagu interacts with the general Gukeng landscape and Caoling village. So as you saw from the news montage that I made, this location was originally touted as a very nice place to come and visit. It used to be quite popular. Then in 2016, in December, there were 2 accidents. One resulted in the death of 2 individuals. It's not known exactly what happened to them. They were just found as floating bodies, but the assumption is that they fell in accidentally. And a third one, which I couldn't find any news articles on, but I can find reference in the National Fire Association data, also drowned for the same reason later that same month. So there was 1 month in December where there were 3 deaths. I can't find any deaths before or after that at all. However, this was a tragic month, and the result of that is that this place was closed. You can see the rhetoric around this place changes from being a lovely place to visit to being a place that you should never visit.
万年峡谷是完全不适合近距离嬉戏的地点。
This, of course, had an impact on the local economy. So now the Yunlin government is trying to actually encourage more and more people to come here, which hasn't been so successful because the place is still closed. As you saw, the news and people they interviewed correctly identified the main hazard of this area as it being slippery.
最主要是它这边青苔蛮多的。
That area is made of a very soft type of stone, which algae can grow on. So you've actually have pretty good traction in places that it's dry, but places where the algae is, it's easy to slip and fall. If you slip and fall in, there are basically 2 things that can happen. One is you land in the water, because there are a few deep pools in the area. Or the other is just into some of these narrow places where the water is moving quickly in the high season, or when the water's low, there's barely any water at all. But either way, you'll have a fairly strong impact onto a rock. And so there's a risk of injury that you would either break a limb, like a leg or an arm, which would impact your ability to swim. Or you could hit your head and that could make you unconscious. Even if you are unconscious or injured, the water could then push you into a deeper area. There's quite a steep slope, so you could slide down into a deep area even if you didn't initially fall into a deep area. So the biggest risk from falling onto the shallow areas is, of course, being knocked out. So the very simple solution to that, it's not perfect, but it helps, is just to wear a helmet. So anywhere that you are in a place where there's a chance that you could fall, or there's a chance that something could fall onto you, like rocks, we like to wear helmets just to protect our heads. Our brain is a very fragile part of the body, so it's always nice to keep it protected. If you do fall down and you are injured, the most important thing is to keep your face out of the water. And so that means if you are lying on your stomach, it is important to roll over. And if you are pushed down into a place where the water is deeper, then you need to know how to float on your back. So floating on my back, it's actually one of my favorite things to do. I think I could just fall asleep on a lake or in the ocean but it's a fairly simple technique to do it. What you want to do is make your body as straight as possible. This might not be something that you can do if you have sustained an injury to a limb or to your spine, but do the best you can. And then what you want to do is only have your nose and mouth above the water. The less of your body above the water, the closer you will be to neutral buoyancy.
小朋友还是好端端的漂浮在海上。暑假到了，孩子们来到海边进行水域的漂浮课程，只要学会几招，即使遇到溺水危机，也通通不怕。
If you want to try to practice this in a pool, the easiest thing to do is just lie on your back, only have your nose and mouth above the water, and then you want to practice breathing slowly. The trick here is to keep your lungs expanded. So you want to keep some amount of air in your lungs, and that will provide you buoyancy. So alter the way you breathe to not be completely out of breath. Exhale a little bit more slowly, and that will give you a lot more buoyancy. If you have something like in your pocket, like your phone, I mean, obviously we can use it to call somebody, do that. But if it's broken or you don't have signal down there, just drop it. Let it fall to the bottom, because that small amount of metal will actually have a big impact on your buoyancy. Could also be the same, say, for your shoes, depending on what you're wearing. Obviously, the best solution is if you're in a place where you can fall into the water, just wear a life jacket, even if you don't intend to go in the water. Helmet as well, if it's over a steep ledge like this. You know, if you can swim, just swim out. But even if you can't swim, you should still be able to float on your back. And that's just a technique that I recommend everybody practice, as well as sculling for just regular treading water. The deaths that happen here, like actually most of the drowning deaths in Taiwan, is that even though they do happen in water, and so drowning is the ultimate cause of death, the real cause of drowning is slip and fall, because in most drowning cases in Taiwan, the recipients didn't intend to go in the water. They ended up in the water accidentally, by surprise. And so the best thing that you can do is anytime you're around the water is just prepare yourself for being accidentally in the water. And that means have somebody there who is watching you. Have a life jacket on. If it's necessary in a case like this, a helmet is nice too. You should just always assume that if you're near the water, you could accidentally end up in the water. So you should know about that water. Is it fast? Is it deep? Do I have an exit plan? A really simple thing that can help you a lot whenever you're out in nature near any body of water is just to sort of think as you walk up to it, what would happen if I fall in? And then if you do fall in, you're less surprised, you're less panicked, and you already have some sort of plan of action for what to do. So you can identify the place in the pool where it's shallow. So you know if I fall in, I need to scramble as fast as I can. You know, if you can't swim, you can still make some movement, even if you're not above the water, to get to the shallow area. If there's something you can be washed over and you don't want to be washed over that, then you know, where do you need to go to get away from it? Is there something sticking out like a branch or a rope that you can grab? So these are the just kind of simple steps as you walk up to the water to just sort of take a mental note of your surroundings and come up with a plan for what to do if something unexpected happens. That's something that I do every time I go up to the river. I don't even think about it. It's just something I do instinctively, which is just, okay, if I end up here, what's my escape? You know, for a calm body of water, maybe I don't care. I'm just happy to just be in it. But especially if there's fast flowing water with some obstacles in it, like rocks or branches or other hazards, it's very helpful to think about it in advance before you go in, even if you're not intending to go in. Which brings us to the second topic, which is what to do if you intentionally go in. And so Wannian Xiaogu is a canyon, it's a channel. And most of the year, the water is very, very calm. There's just not that much water. So really, there's not that much you need to do except for check the depth. So in the pools, of course, it's deep, so be aware you'll be swimming. But in the shallow areas, there's nothing really going on. However, as the water level increases, that speed also increases quite dramatically. So when the water is moving through there at a faster speed, you can be knocked off your feet, you can be pushed. And so really what you want to do is check downstream and make sure that there's no sticks and branches, like basically trees that have fallen into the river or rocks and are blocking it and impeding the progress. Because a very dangerous thing in fast-moving water is if you get tangled up in some kind of obstacle, that could make your head under the water, to submerge your head when you don't want it to be. In a short place like this, you can just walk down and check everything and walk back up before you go in. If you're in a smaller area, or what we do when we're kayaking, is that we don't really need to check the entire range of places that we're going to, but we need to check until the next safe spot. And so when the water's fast, you want to just check between here and the next place that it's calm, or the next place that you can stop if there's a nice eddy, something like that. It's just really important that from where you are, you can see an exit. And so we do this when we're river tracing, we do this when we're kayaking. As you go through the river, and anytime you're going to attempt to cross a river or just enter the water, you can just see, okay, if things go wrong, where am I going to end up? And that's a very important exercise that will help you be a lot safer in the future. Now, it's unfortunate that this area remains mostly closed because everybody already knew. You can see from the news and these articles that they did know that these are not water sports related deaths. These are slip and fall deaths. And so it really doesn't make sense to ban people from engaging in water activities when none of the accidents that occurred were actually even related to water activities. They were mostly related to photography, curiosity, and just the natural human instinct to walk over to an edge and look down it to see what's in there. We've all done it. We all feel the urge, even if we choose not to walk over. Everybody's curious about it. And so they built this walkway that goes around it, but in order to keep the walkway out of the path of the river during a typhoon so that it doesn't get washed away, it's actually pretty far back from the edge, and it doesn't really do a satisfactory job of allowing people to look in. So my prediction is that even though there is this nice new walkway, people are going to largely ignore it. People are still going to walk on the edge, people are still going to look in, and it's possible that there could be some accidents in the future. So instead of sort of preventing people from trying to look in, my advice is to just make it easier. So you can just lay down some material that has good traction, make it so that people will walk there. Of course, you can't put that everywhere, but in the place that's most likely for people to walk up, just a little bit of traction material would go a long way to make it more safe. Or you can engage in a little bit of cleaning just to clean the algae off kind of regularly to make it not so slippery, especially before big holidays, things like that. So it's something that requires some maintenance, but there's a big path in art like that already requires maintenance. Might as well do the extra step and just prepare it a little bit. For the person walking up, of course, just only step on dry rock. Be very, very cautious about the places that you go to, because anywhere that's discolored could be algae. The algae is not necessarily green. It can often be yellow or orange, stained with the minerals that are in the water. It doesn't always look like algae, but it does look separate from dry rock. And so you just want to step on the nice, clean, dry rock. I will say, though, because I did go in it on my birthday last year, that was my birthday present to myself. And I must say, this is basically the most fun I've ever had rafting. It's such a great place for it. It really has a lot of potential. It's really a shame that the rules basically prevent commercial activity there. I think it's actually a great place to do commercial water sports recreation. A lot of tours. Up on the top, there's Tongshin Waterfall. Down below, there's Longfeng Waterfall. And in the middle, there's these beautiful places to play. There's a lot of history there. 500 million years of history there. So I think that really a lot of this is a missed opportunity. I think that overall, in the larger Gukeng area and the Caolin area, in the past, after the earthquake, there was a big lake there, and so they did have like recreation services and boating in that lake until it filled up with silt. But then after that, there's like nothing. They don't tie any of these surrounding areas into like real recreation services. They've built the paths. The path is pretty boring. After like 10 minutes, you walk on it and you're done, and there's nothing else to do. The same thing goes up top for like above Tongshin Waterfall. There's a bridge. You can't even see the waterfall from the bridge. You walk it, after 5 minutes, you're done. And there's really like a lot of these things that are 5 minutes and you're done, and it's not really sustainable. If you go to a place like Caolin, you go to the village and you walk through the village. It's a real shame because it's such a beautiful place and there's so much potential there. But actually, if you walk through it, all the shops are closed. Often there I go and I struggle to get food there. I'm just like looking for any restaurant that's open, and all the shops are closed. This walking tour does a really good job of showing the whole town. I'll put a link in the description. But if you can see here, just walking through the main part of town, everything is closed, and this is normal. It's like this every time I go there. This is not like 6 in the morning or something like that. This is just the normal everyday village. Looks pretty much like this, and it's a real shame because there's so much to do here. Even there's another big waterfall at the bottom there, Shui Liandong waterfall, Qing Shui Shi. It's great for kayaking, and there's that cliff you can walk on. There's some other routes around here. There's just not like this good job of integrated services, and I think that one of the sort of first steps to sort of rebuilding the tourism in this area is to remove the bans and to allow for commercial entities to provide tours and things that are more interesting than just a 5-minute walk on a path where you can't see anything. I think that if people were allowed to go into the canyon and spend more time in the canyon, a lot more people would be driving out there. I know I would. Also, if you could have tours going down from Tongshin Waterfall, it would be very interesting, repelling tours. I really think there's a lot of opportunity in this area for outdoor recreation, and I think that it's a shame that it's not just not promoted, it's like actively prohibited. And I think that that's a likely contributor to the decline in activity in Shaolin Village, especially when you look at old videos before 2016 when it was open and there's just people everywhere. And then if you go back, you might not even see another person, even though the road's open, even though the path's open. So it's a real shame. And I think more could be done. So I think that there is some benefit to allowing an area to be more explored, and I look forward to some development on this in the future. Hopefully one day this place can be open because it really is an amazing place. It really is.